Okay, can I have your attention, please? We will begin the meeting. Would everybody check their cell phones? And can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Commissioner Gossett Seidman,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Mayor Hillman,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
Town Attorney Faulkner.
Present.
Thank you.
And can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll begin with the agenda. Does anybody have any adjustments to the agenda? No? Okay, I do. I would like to take item 11C under new business, which is the discussion of the finances, and move it up to call it 7A. That would be on page 4, put it ahead of ordinances. If everybody is comfortable with that. It's a major discussion. I'd like to get it done and out of the way early during the meeting.
If it's 7A is announced.
I think you meant meeting.
Well, reason I'm calling it A is we'll do the announcements. After the announcements, we'll then tackle the finances. Okay? With that one change, can I have a motion?
I move that we approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, presentations and proclamations. We have 3. The first is for National Safe Boating Week, and we have a couple of visitors here with us. Rafael Baez, I pronounced that correctly? Did you want to say a few words? Welcome. Come to the podium and just press that little button that turns it on. A little further down, you'll get an assistance here. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here for the second year. Last year, we did it virtually. We're really grateful to be part of this community. We're a few blocks from here. For me, it's something personal because Highland Beach was the first place that I started working when I moved to Florida, right next door at Toscana. So for me, it's always been Highland Beach close to my heart, and I'm glad to be here. And thank you for supporting National Safe Boating Week.
Thank you. Good to have you here. I'll read the proclamation. For nearly 100 million Americans, boating continues to be the popular recreational activity. From coast to coast and everything in between, people are taking to the water and enjoying time together boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. During National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe boating partners encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful water responsibly. National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so they can have a safer, more fun experience on the water throughout the year. Whereas on the average, 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., 79% of these fatalities are caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment, not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 21 through 27, 2022 as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. I encourage all citizens of the town of Highland Beach who boat to practice safe boating habits and wear a life jacket at all times while boating. In witness wherefore, I have hereby set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida to be affixed this 17th day of May 2022. Would you like to come up? We'll get a picture.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yep, exactly. Next, we have the 62nd Annual National Public Works Week, May 15th through the 21st, Ready and Resilient. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, emerging managements, and services that are for the vital importance and sustainability and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the citizens of the town of Highland Beach. Whereas it is the public interest of the citizens of town of Highland Beach to gain knowledge of and maintain ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2022 marks the 62nd Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Say that one 10 times. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby designate the week of May 15 through 21, 2022 as National Public Works Week. I encourage all citizens of the town of Highland Beach to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies to pay tribute to our public works professionals. In witness wherefore, I hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida to be fixed this 17th day of May 2022. Do we have anybody here from Public Works that will accept this? Ah, good. Come on up. There we are.
Come on out. Look at you.
Hello, everybody. We appreciate the recognition. We take our job very seriously here at Highland Beach, and we look forward to many more years of employment.
Great. Anybody else want to say anything before? No, we're good? Okay. Come on over.
Thank you.
Okay, making progress.
Last proclamation is in recognition of National Police Week of 2022 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguard our democracy. Whereas there are approximately 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the town of Highland Beach Police Department. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., whereas 619 names of the fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 472 officers killed in 2021 and 147 killed the previous year. And whereas the service and sacrifices of all officers killed in the line of duty were honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and Museum ceremonies, including the 34th Candlelight Vigil held on May 13th, 2022 in Washington, D.C. Whereas May 15th was designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all foreign officers and their families, and the U.S. flags were flown at half-staff. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby recognize May 11 through 17, 2022 as National Police Week, and further extend appreciation to the Highland Beach Police Department and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and communities across the nation. In witness wherefore, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida to be affixed this 17th day of May, 2022. We thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commission. It's an important week for us, certainly, for us to think about our fellow officers that we've lost over the years and a challenging job this has become over the certainly the last several years. So really appreciate that the Commission recognizing this, and but you know the support and appreciation we get from this town is second to none. So certainly valuable to us as we come to work every day. So thank you.
Sorry, I can't see Commissioner David back there. One, two. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item D, can be found on page 14. It's resolution number 2022-12. This is for, I believe it's two individuals continuing their service on boards. Am I not correct? No?
It's just one.
It's two separate.
It's two separate ones. Okay.
This is the one for.
Josh.
Josh Davidson for the Natural Resource Preservation Advisory Board.
Again, please.
So this one is for the Natural Resource Advisory Board. Josh Davidson.
Oh, got you. I was ahead of the game. Okay, Josh, you are coming in on Zoom, are you?
One moment, he just joined in. Just joined. Oh, he's on. He's on. He's just not visibly showing, but he's on. Mr. Davidson,
Yes, I'm here.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
He's unmuted. He's on. He unmuted himself.
I can hear you fine.
Mr. Davidson? We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
Let's move on to public comments while you're trying to do that. Anybody have the public comments? Jack, anything? No? Okay, we'll close public comments. Oh, there we are.
I can hear you guys fine.
Oh, he can hear us. He's low.
Josh, welcome. Hear us okay? Good. Okay, is there anything you want to tell the commission before each commissioner asks their questions?
Nothing in particular, just looking forward to the opportunity to serve, the community and give back to my place of residence that we lived here for about 4 years now. Hoping to protect its beaches and natural resources. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Good, John, we'll start with you.
Do you have any specific past experience related to this world?
I not officially, no. Aside from maybe volunteer work.
Okay. And your intentions going forward is, in what way would you be helping us through this board?
Just being a resource, helping to generate ideas on how to preserve, our ecosystem and, being a resident and wanting to maintain the type of town that the condition that it's currently in and not let it deteriorate any further. Not that it's deteriorating, but you understand what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
Ellen,
Why this particular board?
I gave an option between this and the finance board. This one seemed for a more of a higher purpose in serving the true identity of Highland Beach. It's a coastal community, the intercoastal and the beach, and really my interest lies in protecting the reason I came to move here in the first place.
Well, I applaud you for volunteering with 4Ocean. I know that that's a very admirable group of people. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Davison. I'd be interested in your goals. Obviously, natural resources covers every inch of our land, water, air, basically. What would be your goals in terms of getting on this board and putting your expertise at work?
Sure. I am excited that we have now a new marine police unit. I consistently have people that go way too fast in my particular canal, as I live on the intercoastal side. And I'm constantly, worried about seawall deterioration from myself and my neighbors, and as well as the beach. My wife and I used to live here actually 10, 11 or 12 years ago now, when we were first dating, and the shoreline has, completely changed in that amount of time, from erosion. And, I don't want that to happen another 10 years from now or 20 years from now. So just really kind of my goal is to bring whatever resources or experience that I might have to the table. And sometimes I feel that even if you don't have experience in a particular subject, I do have quite a range of experience in other things that you might be able to think outside the box, new ideas that can help with the board and the committee.
That's great. Thank you. In the past several years, we've had studies provided to our boards and our commission from FDEP, Army Corps, and several other agencies and private partnerships. So I wondered if you'd be interested in having those provided to you so you could sort of catch up on some of the information that's out there. Because if you're a boater and you're a marketing manager, I'm thinking that you'd be able to review those and apply some of your skills and introspection on them. Something you would have time and interest in doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be happy to. And I've kept occasionally watched previous board meetings for the Environmental Protection Board. So I'm somewhat familiar with past issues that have come up, and I've seen some of those reports.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Natasha.
Hi there. So the last time we talked to you, I think you were going through a construction project at your property. So I guess my question is, how is that going? Is it complete? And I guess, is that part of the motivation for you to start getting involved with a town board?
Yeah, you could say motivation wise, that is partially my goal here, is to become a better member of the community and to really lend my voice. As far as progress with the board, unfortunately, we had to abandon the project the way we originally planned it because of the added cost that was going to be involved in potentially adding pilings in order to extend our deck. We were afraid that soil samples were going to come back that it wasn't sustainable for building a cement deck expansion as our original plan. So we completed our deck a few months ago with composite materials.
Okay, so, yeah, I just want to make sure. So is it anything related at all with that project and getting involved with this board? Is there any specific action that you're hoping to implement or, with this board that would have been related to that project?
Nothing in particular that would be related to that specific project. For my own personal knowledge, it was a great experience to kind of learn how ordinances were created and how we needed, or the board needed, outside, I guess, I don't know the term, you had to deal with the military corps or somebody to determine whether the ordinance was in effect on, specific homes that were on specific types of properties. So just my goal would be to kind of better understand how ordinances are created into the community and how it affects the residents of the community. That would be the best relationship I can give you as to my motivation in regards to our deck expansion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Thanks, Josh. Thank you for submitting your name and wanting to serve. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anybody have any follow-up questions? No? Okay, oops, I see you reaching.
Yes, I move we accept resolution number 2022-012.
All in favor? You got a second? We need a
Need a
second
second.
first.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Welcome to the board.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let's move on. Announcements, board vacancies, Board of Adjustments and Appeals. There's one vacancy for a 3-year term. Natural Resources, there was a vacancy. Now it's just been filled. Meetings and events, May 24th at 1:30 is the next, is a Town Commission special meeting. May 30th, Town Hall will be closed in observance of Memorial Day. June 2nd, a Town Commission meeting. There are no board action reports. Now we're going to move on to the discussion on the recommendation from the Financial Advisory Board and the update of new financial information that just came in. That can be found on page 86. And of course, the handout we just received.
So I'll jump in and kind of set the stage a little bit for Mr. Ford, who's our financial advisor, and we'll work out the details of the cost of each of the products. I'm going to steal the term he used today earlier. This isn't an apples to apples comparison as you normally, this is an apple, an orange, and a unicorn. So very different products that we're kind of trying to tie down the financial costs and options and the benefits and the risks of each for you. And John will do that in a moment. But with that, I did send you that email yesterday. That was kind of an urgent thing. So this, I want to kind of set the stage that we're using this best interest purchasing policy, which allows us to capture industry standard best practice. So as you notice, we had 16 proposals from 13 or 11 institutions. Someone gave 3 or 4, and some of them left certain provisions open to be negotiated, to be tied down in any greater detail when we start to work on that final loan agreement. So after we went to the FAB meeting last week, the FAB really pulled it down to Webster Bank, and then had a little bit of conversation with Synovus Bank product, that drawdown option. Based on the information that we had at that meeting, the FAB felt that the traditional Webster 2.9% fixed interest rate product over 10 years was the best at that time. But they said only if those conditions are being held by Webster Bank. So John reached out to Webster Bank, Synovus Bank, and PNC, because we did talk a little bit about PNC because their interest rates were so low. It was worthy of a conversation, but some of the make whole provisions and some of the prepayment issues were kind of held that product back. So John let the other ones go, said that the community is going to focus on these 3 other options. And when we reached out, Synovus came back and said, hey, as we looked at this, we're looking at an 18-month draw and removing all prepayment penalties, and that you can prepay in whole or in part. So that changed a lot of things yesterday for us. And we kind of got that information to you as quickly as we could, again, because it was yesterday. And again, the FAB didn't have that opportunity. So it wasn't the FAB ignored that product, just that once we got more details at this later hour, it became more clear. So based on that, John looked at all 3, and he is going to kind of walk you through pluses and minuses, the costs over that period of time. And again, we move forward a lot of it based on that initial conversation with the commission, that there is a strong desire for a prepayment at some point earlier than that 10-year maturity because of our strong financial position. And that strength would allow us potentially to shorten that amount. There was also a question conveyed about, the prepayment parts, and do we have to take all of the money or not? So John's going to walk us through this at this point.
Sure. Thank you very much. I remembered the button this time. So the 11 proposals that you received were by and large excellent. It was a very tight grouping, and it was more proposals than I expected us to receive. So I was very pleased with that. The 3 structures in front of you, we feel offer the best combination of low cost and terms and conditions that are aligned with the town's goals as we understand them. 2 of these structures are traditional fixed rate loans. That is the structure from PNC Bank. It's actually one of 3 structures they proposed to the town. 1 structure from Webster Bank. And finally, there is the structure that the manager referred to as the unicorn, which is a fixed rate drawdown structure from Synovus Bank. And it's very different. The PNC Bank structure offers the very lowest interest rate. On the sheet in front of you, this summary comparison of loan structures sheet, that interest rate is listed as 2.538%. It is an indicative rate as of yesterday. As of a few minutes ago, it is 2.558%. We do not have a rate lock agreement available to us yet today, and it would have to be approved by the commission. So that will have to wait till next week if the commission chooses to select that institution. The interest rate from Webster Bank was proposed as a firm 2.90%. That would be held through June 10th, and it is their preference to close around June 10th rather than earlier. Synovus Bank proposed a fixed rate of 3.28%, and that also gives the town the ability to draw down proceeds without requirement or limitation for the first 18 months. So assuming that we were to close immediately following next week's meeting on the 24th, that would take you all the way to November 24th of 2023. essentially that means any money that you did not draw in that period would not bear any interest at all. It would not cost the town a dime. So that's important. Bank fees and expenses proposed by these banks were pretty straightforward. It's very typical to have somewhere between $0 and $10,000 for legal counsel fees to represent the bank. That was the case here. PNC was $8,500, nothing from Webster Bank, and $7,500 for Synovus Bank. The average annual debt service on these loans is pretty similar, but it's also a little funky. The average annual payment from PNC is about $582,000 a year, about $592,000 a year from Webster, and about $589,000 from Synovus Bank under their drawdown structure. This assumes, and all of the following numbers for Synovus assume, that the town would not draw its $5 million of project funds until the end of that 18-month period, delaying as long as possible to avoid incurring any interest expense. That makes that loan as low cost to the town as possible. So that's the assumption there. That gives you total interest over the life of the loan, $690,000 for PNC, $790,000 for Webster Bank, and about $752,000 for Synovus. The PNC and Webster banks offer an opportunity and therefore an uncertainty that the drawdown structure does not. And that is, if you receive $5,000 at closing, $5 million at closing, you won't just leave it sitting in a bank account earning nothing. You'll do something with it. And we've assumed that you would put it into Florida Prime, which is a local government investment pool run by the State Board of Administration. It's currently yielding 88 basis points. So we assumed that you would earn interest on that amount for that same 18-month period. We assumed you would again delay as long as possible to generate those earnings. That gives you an adjusted total interest cost for these loans of about $624,000 for PNC, $724,000 for Webster, or $752,000 for Synovus. However, these costs are all reflective of holding the loan to final maturity in 2032. The town has expressed numerous times a preference for prepaying the loan, maybe as soon as the 5-year mark. So we've calculated out a 5-year prepayment. If the town were to prepay in 5 years, and I'm going to start with Webster here, the Webster Bank would cost the town a total of $5,652,000 over the life of the debt. Synovus Bank would be a good bit lower, about $60,000, $70,000 lower, I think. No, about $90,000 lower at $5,568,000. PNC Bank is listed here very, very close to the Synovus Bank number, $5,582,000. There's a caveat to be made with PNC Bank. PNC has what we call a make whole call provision, which means that if rates fall and are lower at the time you want to prepay the loan, there's an offsetting penalty that comes into play. As rates fall, that penalty increases. It precludes the town from refinancing this loan for interest rate savings, like we might do with the traditional refinancing. But if rates stay essentially where they are or rise, there probably won't be any penalty at all. And this number assumes that there is no penalty. It assumes a stable or rising interest rate environment over that period of time. So over a 5-year period, the Synovus Bank drawdown structure under these assumptions would offer you the very, very lowest cost. At that point, I'm going to pause and ask for questions.
He talking about the 5-year comparison is in the handouts that we gave you. So if you want to see that in the back, they're stapled together. And that was what he was talking about on the interest rates. I just didn't see anyone flipping through them. But at the back, there's 3 pages starting. It says 5-year payoff, no make whole penalty on the PNC product. So basically the first handful of handouts are to maturity. The back half are the 3 showing the 5-year payoff amounts.
They are, thank you.
That's to maturity. It's this one here.
Did you, John, did you include, assuming we took, let's say, PNC, and we took the whole 5 million, obviously at closing, did you include the modest interest that we would gain on investing that?
I did.
Okay, that's in it.
88 basis points
Yeah.
of interest per month for about 18 months.
Okay, so you threw that in there.
I did.
Okay,
I did. And that's visible on those detailed cash flows if you've
Got it.
through Bruce.
thank you.
So threw it in there where? In the total payments through 9/30/27? Like where, like,
On the sheet that has the detailed cash flows. It's this one right here. That's the 5-year one.
Estimated project fund
Okay.
earnings. right?
Estimated project fund earnings. Assumptions.
Can I ask a question? Could you just review one more time for me?
Yes, sir.
The key difference with Synovus is this 53,000 funded, followed by 5 million funded a year later or so.
The key difference with Synovus, the 53 represents the closing costs that the town is responsible for, and it's assumed that those would be paid out of proceeds of the debt. Synovus allows you to draw funds at your whim over the first 18 months, and we've assumed here that you would draw $53,000 at closing to pay your transaction costs. I believe Mr. Miller's on the Zoom meeting, and he can also comment, but I believe there's a tax requirement to draw at least $50,000 to sort of close the loop for tax purposes.
Whereas the other two,
They're going to give you money on day one.
they give you money on day one, but it would seem to me that PNC, the closing cost of $8,500 is the way I look at it, is kind of is separate and wanted upfront versus Webster that kind of buries it in the higher interest rate.
So from an interest rate standpoint, PNC offers the very lowest traditional interest rate, clearly. The difference between the $8,500 and the zero and closing costs truly doesn't move the needle. It doesn't compare with that interest rate.
Okay, so it's nothing.
The downside of the PNC compared to Webster is, again, that prepayment question, where if rates were to fall, and they have, by the way, when the Financial Advisory Board met, this rate was closer to a 270 than it is to a 250. So we've seen this rate just in the past couple of weeks go up and down. Financial markets are a lot of fun right now. That uncertainty could introduce a prepayment penalty. We did ask PNC and Webster Bank if they would be willing to extend to the town an extraordinary prepayment provision. If, say, in several months, the town decided, we don't want to go forward with the fire station. We just don't want to do this, but we're to close the loan. Webster has not confirmed that they would be able to provide that. PNC has confirmed that they cannot provide that. Synovus, it's irrelevant because you can prepay any amount you want at any time without penalty. So you have that protection there.
And Synovus offers the one real advantage over the other two, besides the difference in cost, is because we don't have to take the money right away.
You don't have to take the money right away, and you can prepay it whenever you want in any amount you want.
do we have to take the 5 million? Like what if, so in your estimated cash flow, November 24th, 2023, you have in there 5 million. What if it's 2.5 million?
Yep.
Can we do that?
Practically, you do not have to. Even if they were to say, no, we have to have the note read $5 million across the top of it tomorrow, you would just draw and repay $2.5 million right away. So practically, no, you can take less than 5 million.
Yeah, excuse me, if we go to that, I'm on that same page. Okay. The actual draw would probably be maybe $1 million in 23, and then there'd be pieces of it each month up until May 24. So the interest showing here might be slightly less, instead of $58,000 on 330. So we may end up with hypothetically $25,000 less in interest, which on the Richter scale ends up leaning more towards Synovus.
Yeah, because I don't see us needing the 5 million. I really don't.
No, I'm with you. So we would have a chance at prepaying it in less than 5 years, a good chance. There's also a good chance we don't need all the 5 million. So that gives me anyways, more impetus to go towards Synovus. If nothing changed other than what we're looking at right here, Synovus is slightly better, but it's much better if we end up taking less than 5 million. even if it ends up like this, it's a little bit better. It's a lot better if we don't need all the 5 million. It's a lot better if we use less than 5 earlier. I don't see any chance that the other two could be better than Synovus.
Because with the other two, you have to take all
You have
5
to take
million
the
up
5
front.
million. You have to take the 5 million.
Yeah.
To me,
Right.
it's a
And we're
no-brainer.
sitting on it for,
Right.
you
Well,
know, and
al-
earn,
Also, if you take a look at even, we pick up, 88 basis points because we would invest the money. So you can take all these rates down slightly. Still Synovus comes out better.
Yeah, it's noise.
Yeah, and you can throw anything you want at it. Synovus always comes out better.
All right. But the point is also, it gives us more flexibility. We don't need the money.
Right.
We're not going to get penalized immediately. We don't have,
Right.
we only start drawing it when we need it. And even if we have to take out more than we need, then we can pay it back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing on everything you say. Everything we look at from any angle, Synovus always comes out ahead. Shoot,
My take
yeah.
on it.
I just wondered, sir, PNC and Webster, were they totally inflexible about the prepayment or were they marginally interested or did no go?
Webster was optimistic that they could provide an extraordinary prepayment. Their provisions as it stands are sort of in between these two. They have after 3 years, a 1% penalty for prepayment and after 5 years, no penalty. So that's pretty darn good. Synovus obviously saying that there's no penalty at all at any time is fantastic. PNC is a little different. Their model, and I can say this having done a lot of work with them, their model does not allow usually for any prepayment without a make whole call.
Forget that.
You got to recognize the big win, excuse me,
Thank you.
is
No, thank
the
you.
drawdown.
Misunderstood.
Yeah,
Drawdown while retaining prepayment.
yeah. It seems to me that that's the best of all worlds. It gives us the most flexibility. It allows us to draw when we want and not have to take it all and possibly not need to take it all
Yeah.
and no prepayment
Well,
clause.
we're in a
So-
world right now where there's so many things that are uncontrollable, rising costs, the whole supply chain problem. So the greatest flexibility also sits with Synovus.
It seems to me Synovus met our wish list.
Yeah, yeah. they did.
That's what, when we were asking you to look into
They
things,
did.
that's what we were looking for.
And by the way, when I called it a unicorn, I wasn't exaggerating. I contacted 6 or 7 of the very largest banks in public finance, and none of them offer a structure like this. So I did not expect to see one on the response. Thrilled that we did, hoping we can get it some other places too.
Natasha, you see anything else that would lean us away from Synovus?
so you said there was some volatility in the interest rates where they actually dipped down. So are they holding firm on this 3.28 interest rate?
Yes, Synovus rate is firm.
Yep, that's what it says here.
Mhm.
Firm.
They,
Unless.
Yeah, that's why they're giving us the other two, the two. That's why they're giving us the flexibility on the other two. The drawdown and the flexibility of no prepay.
So what are the banks saying? You've talked to a lot of these banks, even though it's very volatile right now. What is the longer term outlook in their minds, given the potential of recession and so forth? Is this, the interest rates really looking at a major increase? Obviously.
no, speaking with a couple of the investment bankers at Bank of America Securities yesterday, the prediction from their underwriting desk, so not the folks making the loans, but the ones selling the bonds, is that we're not going to have an early 1980s style shock. Their comment was that the Fed is behind the curve. They're playing catch up. It's allowed the market to go ahead and price in all the inflation risk. So they're not, could rates go up a bit more? Certainly. Absolutely.
But it's not the 13-14% variety.
That's not what they're predicting, and I sure hope not. So, these are
You
all,
want a different point of view?
Yeah, actually, it would just seem that we're headed that way. I don't know.
I mean, these 50 basis points jumps are not, they're totally insufficient.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be looking at 75 basis points if the Feds have any guts at all.
Absolutely.
But I don't know that you're going to look at double digit, but we're looking at jumps. I agree with you. I don't think you're looking at 13-14%, but that's where we should be. We should be at 10% right now if you want to curb inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the rates have to be over the inflation rate in order to get this thing down. I don't know that they got the guts to do it.
But the point is that then the risk for us on a penalty is fairly low.
Very low.
So,
Yeah, but regardless of that, we're getting the other two things we want. We want no penalty if we feel strongly that we're going to be able to prepay. And
it's firm.
yeah, and you know, we've got the drawdown. So you got to pay for those with a little higher rate. But the little higher rate, I mean, you know me, I'm a nickel and dime guy. Okay, but we're not paying heavily for that.
So then, I mean, to me, looking at this for the first time, I obviously just got this, just from a cursory review of the numbers and what makes sense, you would go with Synovus. Is that your recommendation?
I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I think it's probably the best of the three structures.
Why do you say probably?
Because depending upon the things that we can't see in the future, any one of these could be incredible. And these are all good.
They're all good.
If I'm in your seat, I'm going with Synovus. That would be my recommendation. But the reason these three are in front of you and not the 13 other structures is because they weren't as good.
And I'm going to ask a stupid question.
Sure.
But there's no relationship here with you and Synovus?
Absolutely not.
We're all clean, clear?
I don't have a relationship with any commercial bank. I do have a checking account with B of A that I opened when I was 16.
But my third cousin's neighbor's boyfriend that they went to high school with, his brother-in-law.
Okay, very good.
Anybody want to offer any more discussion before we make a motion?
Yeah, I just have so just from a pure expense point of view, on May 24th, there's a $53,000 expense. And what is that for exactly?
Yes, ma'am. The transaction costs would cover not just the bank counsel, but my fee as well as that of your bond counsel, any professional expenses associated with that. And I do not believe you have anything. Nope. So that's all.
Closing costs.
So so a portion of that is the same across the board,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So why? I mean, it's only a small difference, but why is it 52,000 in your estimate through 2032, but 53,000 in your 5-year estimate? Is that just?
For the same bank,
Yeah, for Synovus.
that probably means that I fat fingered it.
Okay.
My apologies.
So that's,
We'll take the 52 then.
I'll work on that.
The 5-finger discount?
okay, so if,
I can list the amounts in detail for you.
no, I don't, I just wanted to make sure I understood, what that was. Yeah, all right. I just want to make sure I understand what, all those expenses are. So, yeah, I guess I'm looking at the dollars. I'm not so focused on the interest rate. And it seems like potentially we would have the least, clearly, we have the least amount of expenses with the Synovus, whatever, however you
You
pronounce
would
it.
have the lowest transaction costs with Webster because they did not propose any legal fees as part of their.
Okay,
offer.
because it's 45,000 there. Okay,
Correct.
I
correct.
see. Okay. Gotcha. But that's, like you said, that's minimal in the grand scheme of things.
It is.
I mean,
Okay.
Sorry,
It's okay.
wasn't that the whole reason that we were asking for $5,050,000
Yes, ma'am.
was for the 50,000 to cover closing expense?
Yeah, exactly.
Last chance. Anybody else?
I guess,
Any
yeah,
questions?
so my other question about Synovus, is this something that's pretty urgent? Like we should act on this like soon, like the 24th of May?
Their
is.
proposal will expire, and I can't remember the date. Pardon me 1 second.
Oh, while he's looking, rates are going up again.
Aside from the rates, you mean?
They went down. They
John,
went
I think it's May 28th on Synovus.
May 28th. Okay,
I
thank you.
believe so.
Okay, so that's why we have that meeting on the 24th.
Correct. So
can
we
meet
can meet
that.
everybody's deadline. That's why the 24th, because at the initial submittal dates, most of the good deals were available until late May. And we kind of foresaw that this was going to be somewhat of a difficult decision because it wasn't all the same types of products with just the interest rate varying or maybe a prepayment. It's a totally different option that you were looking for that somehow became available. So this is good.
Okay, so now that the banks are watching us and this discussion, do you think that anybody is going to come back and change it?
They could, and that's kind of the, we can always squeeze and ask. John's good at asking questions. We seem to be, every time we ask, it's something nicer, but maybe it's your presentation of the question. So, but I don't foresee a lot of changes because the Synovus change was pretty I don't want to say significant, but it was definitely an eye opener. Instead of just little tiny details on an interest rate or a lessening of a year in prepayment, they kind of really we'll give you 18 months to draw it. Because I think they even recognize the market conditions that it's hard to figure out how this is all going to be timed out. So
If I'm
Okay.
a competing bank, first thing I'm going to do is offer
Okay.
the same thing.
If I may. What was PNC prior to this meeting?
Their interest rate?
Yeah.
As of yesterday, 2.538, as of last week.
Okay, so they keep moving as the market moves a little bit.
Correct.
Okay. And what was when did you last have a conversation with them?
About 45 minutes ago. That's when we
Okay,
were
so-
updated to 2.558.
All right, so, I mean, they are where they are. Their only change is going to be as the rates move.
Mhm.
And do you think they are at all open to a conversation about coming anywhere as close to Sonova on the other 2 points?
I am certain that they will not offer a drawdown structure. It's very unusual. And as for prepayment, I had that conversation with them this morning. I've never known PNC to offer anything but a make-whole call.
Okay, and you're certain they won't discuss a draw?
They did propose a drawdown structure in their proposal included an alternate. They gave you 3 different structures to choose from, and option C, I believe it was, offered a 2-year variable rate drawdown, which would then convert to an 8-year loan according to whatever treasury rates are at that time. We excluded that during the meeting at the Financial Advisory Board because it seemed to violate a couple of the goals of the town. One was to
Yeah,
avoid
right.
variable rate
Yeah, we
risk.
can't gamble. Do you think it's even worth going back to them, telling them we really like them, we really like their rate, we love doing business with them, I won't tell you what to say, et cetera, but it's imperative that we have at least a 12-month draw at this rate. Is that even worth the discussion?
No, it's not going to change the result, but I'm happy to make that call. PNC is your bank of account
Right.
here. They value this. That's evident in the interest rate. This was a strong proposal.
Yeah, I mean, you just tell them we're very comfortable with the rate. We're appreciative of it, but really important, we have a 12-month draw.
Absolutely happy to have the conversation. I would advise you not to expect any movement on the draw structure point.
Another thought is to ask Synovus if they could reduce the interest rate.
Would you let me finish?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was my next point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Synovus can,
We're real happy with Sonova.
Yeah.
We're almost ready to go if they can work a little bit on that rate.
yeah, it's got to happen.
Everything else is great with Sonova. We're really happy. They're very competitive. Just got to get that rate down a little bit.
I will make that call before I
Be
leave here
great.
today.
Okay. Yeah, jump. Oh, Marshall?
Yeah, it's going to have to happen like today in order to get the final loan agreements. But again, in essence, following our procedures, it would be kind of a, your final and best type call with each of them so we can move forward.
Okay. If you make the call while we continue in the meeting, we can make a decision when you come back.
I will do that.
Does that work for you, Marshall?
Yep. And again, that is consistent with the best interest purchasing policy that we are pursuing.
Okay, so we'll make the decision in an hour. If you can get those people on the phone.
See you in a few minutes.
Be terrific. Thank you. When you come back, we'll interrupt whatever we're working on.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
We're counting
Thank
on
you,
you.
Natasha.
So then we are
we're going to table this.
Until John comes back. We'll pick it up as soon as he comes back.
Could I ask for, just to keep our procedures moving, can we get a tabling motion?
Okay, we need
I
a motion
move-
to table this.
Yes, I move that we table this until John comes back with answers from the banks.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. That's why I wanted to move this up, by the way. We did board vacancies. We're on to ordinances, which is on page 23. This is a second reading, 2022-004, the ordinance of town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, adopting the current edition of the Florida Fire Prevention Code and providing for local amendments, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability and codification, and providing for an effective date. First reading was on April 19, 2022. I'll turn it over to you, John. Do you have any comments on it?
No, on the second reading, I went through it. No, I don't have anything, and I tried.
Okay. Ev?
Yeah, this is part of what we were told we had to do in order to structure all of this and get this fire department up and running. So I'm good with it.
Okay. Peg?
I did have one question. I did not see any application of grilling on indoor outdoor surfaces. Marshall's smiling and laughing.
You got the same call.
Well, the reason I say is prior to owning a home, I moved throughout my singlehood to different apartments, condos, including Highland Beach, and some allowed and some disallowed grilling on a outdoor balcony and setting. So I think we should maybe address it one way or another so that it's not confusing to our many residents with balconies and terraces.
But I think, doesn't it, part of it have to do with if there's an open flame or if there is an electric grill,
Sure.
which makes a big difference because open flame, most balconies are not wide enough to allow you to have something with an open flame and be far enough away from the building.
That
So-
could very well be. I just thought we should address it to be clear in the ordinance going forward.
It is. It's in the state fire code. It's prohibited. Open flames are prohibited. On the first floor, you can, but it has to be 10 feet from an overhang. But if you got a George Foreman grill or a little electric griddle, you're fine. You can do that. It's the open flame and it's in the state code. So when we went and built our fire code here, anything that's already in the state code, we didn't duplicate. And we just so we didn't have to say the same thing different ways. So it is in the state fire code. You cannot do that.
Yeah. But also, as a point of fact, most condos won't let you do it anyway.
Oh, and on page 6 of 18, it is in there again. Okay, so we did duplicate it. So obviously,
Okay.
Jeff felt it was necessary to hit it again, even though it's in the state code. We did hit it on, barbecues, open flames on balconies and patios.
And
I missed it.
Okay.
most condos won't have
They
it
won't.
because it's state.
Well, but they won't let you because of smoke and smells. Where people above and below you don't want the smoke and they don't want to smell what you're cooking.
Depends what kind of barbecue sauce you're using.
And who your neighbor is.
Depends what. country
Okay,
you-
anything else? You good? Natasha?
No,
anything?
I'm good. Nothing
good?
else for me. Yep.
Okay, we're all good. We need a roll call vote on this once there's a motion. So let's have a motion.
I move that we accept ordinance number 2022-004 on our second reading.
There a second?
I second it.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on. This is now on page 49, ordinance number 2022-005. This is also a second reading. Ordinance of the Town Commission, Town of Highland Beach, authorizing the issuance of the town's non-ad valorem revenue notes, series 2022. The principal amount not to exceed $5,100,000 to provide for the construction and equipping of the new fire station and costs related thereto, covenanting to the budget and appropriate funds from legally available non-ad valorem revenues to repay such note, authorizing the town to award said note to a lender by resolution and to enter into the loan agreement with such lender, setting forth the terms of such note and related matters, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is first reading, by the way, was on May 3 of 2022. It's on page 49. John, I'll turn it over to you. If you got any questions about it.
Again, no questions.
Evelyn?
I know we have to do this in order to approve a loan, so we don't have a choice.
And to draw
So,
down.
yes,
Correct.
trying to draw down.
The only question is on the writing of it, the wording. No questions?
I'm good, thank
You're
you.
good, Natasha.
I'm good, nothing for me.
Okay, I'm good also. We need a motion and a second.
I move that we approve ordinance number 2022-005 on the second reading.
Seconded.
Okay, we need a roll call vote.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we're on to the consent agenda. This is resolution 2022-009. Resolution of Town Commission, the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office for the members of the planning board and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, if I could,
Yes, you can.
this is consent. You don't need to read it. You don't need
Oh.
to talk about it. Just need a motion to approve the consent.
Thank you.
9A and B. The reason why we put these on consent is these are reappointments of existing members.
They're the ones I thought we had earlier.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so A and B, 2022-009, 2022-010.
I
for it.
move we accept items 9A and B.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No unfinished business. Let's move on to an update on fire rescue. Kick it back to you, Marshall.
Yeah, we're kind of in 1,000 different directions, but we are tracking on schedule. EMS vehicle, we're again, as an update on that, I did not send you an email, but I will give you something to take home with you to look at. A very, very, very tentative design on the exterior. Don't take it as though we spent any money on this. This was a simple, we just threw some stickers on it. Just give me your basic feedback, coloring. We will be working with somebody, with the vendor, to do the final design on the logo and stuff, but it kind of gives you the basic color and ideas. But again, we were also, Glenn did speak with the county on maintenance, vehicle maintenance, because they're short staffed. They cannot enter into an agreement with us because they're short 5 emergency vehicle techs, EVTs, they called them. But they said once those hires are approved by the Board of Commissioners and brought on board, they would be more than happy to entertain taking us on a vehicle maintenance contract through the county. But until they hire those people, the guy that runs it can't make that commitment. But he also indicated that the county is moving to Horton. So Horton has fixed some of their design and manufacturing issues and is more of the preferred. Think of in the back end of the rescue, the box, all the specialty items like your little emergency room on wheels, if you will. We were going to go with Crestline. Horton is now back in the question and we're looking at Horton. It's the same thing on a full bodied Ford or GM chassis. You put this box, which is basically how you get the gurney in and the EKG machines, the seats, the storage of all the products, the displays. So we're looking to move to a Horton box, if you will, which is fine. And it's preferred by the county because they do more maintenance on that. So the reliability and the ease of repair by the county, and Glenn and Tom both are 2 lead consultants, preferred Horton once they got some of those issues addressed. So we're going to move in that direction. And then when I get done talking, I'll pass out the preliminary kind of layout of what our our thing will look like. Fire apparatus isn't as a big of a concern for us at this time because we don't need it to get our license through the county to do the ALS components, which is the COPCN concept. But we are looking at that. We're also looking at used vehicles from communities that don't need it, because this would be, in our sense, our backup. We don't need it outside of to rotate in. So it's not our lead. So we're looking at those types of means to save some money if we can find the right product. Working with the architect, looking at a few more layouts, not to exhaust it, but just to look at a few more layouts and different options and opportunities of locations on campus, maybe some alternate locations. So I think at the next meeting, I'll be able to give you a little bit more insight. And we're also looking, it's almost like when you go to look at a house, I'm opening every cabinet to see what possibilities exist for us to, one, save costs, create the best possible opportunity for that location, if there's other alternatives on site or different arrangements. So we're going through a few more of those exercises like we did last time. We brought Kaufman Lynn on board. So they're going to start looking at it from a constructability standpoint as well. So those are positives, and I'll give you some more enlightenments there. We haven't spent a lot of money since the last meeting, so there hasn't been a lot of cost through that. We are actively in the fire recruitment process. We have, I think, 6 candidates that have applied. So we will have a group to look at, and then we're gonna have an internal group, myself and Chief Hartman. We'll be kind of looking and doing that initial screening and getting down to a handful of quality candidates that we will present to the commission. So you'll get to come in on one-on-ones and get an opportunity to interview the candidates. So you could tell me where your head's at and who you think is a lead candidate for you. So we're moving in that process. Again, some paperwork, setting up contracts, vendors, purchasing. There's a lot of things going on that front to make sure we have, from gauzes to syringe to medicals to drugs to whatever we need. And Dr. Cohen's been working with us on that. And he's also still kind of working angles to see if we can't get a more intimate relationship with Boca Regional Hospital for our drug supply. So they could they could store and hold and replenish us on a more frequent basis. And that's kind of where we're at. Again, we're still targeting a draft from our application to the county in midsummer. We should have a draft together. Tricia's been putting together all of the components and kind of putting together what we call our application book. It's literally like a book with all of our, medical procedures, how we handle complaints, training, and the like. So going through that exercise, starting to assemble that draft, and then we'll begin to share back to the county emergency manager director to kind of like, do you like this, not like this? Where does this make sense? Where it doesn't? Again, I continue to relay that the county has been very cooperative and looking to maintain partnership with us, which is a good sign. And I appreciate the county on all those levels to be a good partner as we move forward with this. On some of the other things with our current contract with Delray, we're still working through a lot of the paperwork on the accounting side to get that in place so we can have something for you to look at in good time. But we're still, in the assembly of material and information and kind of confirming our beliefs and assumptions and things of that nature. Other than that, I don't think there's any other hot breaking items, but it's, the loans I don't need to say, we just talked a lot about that to get the financing in place. So that's really where we're spending most of our time is the financing, design, all those little details. Yep.
Thank you, Marshall.
I have a quick question. The 6 candidates, is that only for fire chief? Or
That's all we're doing right now is fire chief.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's just for fire chief.
Yep.
Okay, move on to police. Oh, go ahead.
I just wondered if there's any update on the true ups and the financials and historical content.
We are, we're working on that very closely with our consultants. We're just want to, before we start making some statements and taking certain positions, we want to make sure our information is correct. We've given them every opportunity to present their position and findings. before we cut Alex loose on anything, we want to make sure we're giving him, you're all comfortable directing Alex to move forward with whatever position and direction we take. But we're in that last, I would say that last lap on the track to get that last bit of information.
I have one more question when do we normally get the estimate for fire rescue costs for the next year? 'Cause
2
we're-
weeks.
In 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Delray comes and
I don't know that they will be
Someone
personally
comes,
presenting it to you.
somebody, we're gonna get
Um,
numbers for.
But yes,
the
they will be
budget.
giving us their annual budget estimate. I would tell you to assume it's going to be as
Way
traditional, a lot more. So we'll take a look at that when we get it, but June 1st is the contract deadline to provide that to us.
Okay.
Yeah, we will not be happy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Chief?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good afternoon. Couple of brief updates on some of the workings in our department. Something you asked for also about the Marine unit. So we started, as you know, March 1st, we were able to put the boat in the water, launch the boat. It's pretty ambitious date, but we were able to get it in there and get it started. In that same time, we hired the one Marine unit officer that we do have that started with us right at the same time as the boat went in the water. So as you know, why we created the Marine unit in the response to the decision, the boat accidents that we had and decisions you had to make for that. One of the things we want to focus on is the speed while we're out there. We know it's a manatee zone, getting some of that information out to residents in the community. We were surprised at how many people didn't realize that there was actual speed limits. Some of the contacts, people that live here even think it was a slow wake zone, which is really surprising. But so any boat that moves through outside of a slow wake speed, people thought we're speeding. But we do know there's a speed limit. We'll see it change again now, June 1st. It'll actually go up to 30 miles an hour, and that's set by the state. During that time, in this plus 2 months or so, our officer that's been out there, Officer Lai, has had plenty of interactions with boats. Some of our warnings, written warnings, citation. We've been out with FWC on a few occasions. They've been very helpful riding with us, being out with them in how we interact with other boats and protocols, operating procedures, how we approaches best practices, all those things that we work with them out there on. Big hit at the Coast Guard group, their classes right here down in Broward. You had them here, their auxiliary group this morning. They're pleased because we're pretty excited, engaged with them. So they haven't seen that in a while. We helped rescue diver off the inlet that we responded to. We were the only boat in the water at the time, and certainly Boca Bash. You all saw that a couple of weeks ago. So they were excited to have us in the game and help out in and around town.
What is AOD?
I'm sorry, assist other department or assist to another department, FWC, Boca Raton, Delray, those type of things. We've been on their boat. FWC has come down and been on our boat, and we've been out on patrols with them. If any of you have seen this sign, it's in the south end of town. Thank you to Boca Highlands, certainly for all the support they've given us and the slip and everything we do down there. And this is one on their dock that's on the edge. When you come out of Spanish River going northbound, you see a speed limit sign, and this captures your speed that you're going, and it informs the boaters on what they're doing. Very helpful, kind of like the sign you see out here that we have on A1A. So we made an investment in that and to capture those speeds. It'll give you your speed. It'll tell you when you're going over. We give you a smiley face when you're under, and then that mean face when you're over the speed limit. But we found it to be very useful. Some of the things we can capture off of that is some data, and this is just a snapshot. This was the day before Boca Bash, so you can see where the speeds are. Roughly, majority of people that are in those acceptable speed ranges. And then the anomaly that they're at the top of the ranges, the total numbers of boats that came through at 125. that particular day. And they average right at the speed limit, but that's a small snapshot of that area at the south end of town. The next day at the Boca Bash, you can see the volume 283 that caught and where the speeds were, mostly in that range. And the same thing, average speed was right at the speed limit. You get so many to go so much lower, brings it down. This is StealthSat. This is something else we're going to purchase. We're in the process of purchasing right now. So that does that same thing without the visible speed monitor. What we want to do is be able to strap that to any dock anywhere up and down the intercoastal, move it. It'll capture those same type of raw data that we can extract, so we can see volume, time of day, high speeds, low speeds, all those type of things, and we can move it around. So we can get a better picture over time on the intercoastal, the type of speeds that come through there. Days, weeks, hours we should concentrate on. We're going to apply that to the intercoastal and certainly A1A. So that's going to get a lot of use out of us.
That doesn't include a camera though. right?
No cameras. That's all just capturing the raw data. So our information, our boat interacts with people all day long, whether it's on their docks in the backyard, pulling up alongside, talking to them. We're always handing out different type of boat literature, information, things they would need while they're out there on the waterway. Been to 2 different association meetings along the intercoastal. We are scheduling another one soon, and we're trying to meet with the different condos and different entities along the intercoastal that can accommodate the dock. Found it to be very valuable, kind of like a show and tell. We brought the boat to them. One of them was Seagate, certainly, where they had one of the tragedies happen there. So yeah, very interesting, great response, great questions, great interactions as we talk to people. And that's where we learned some of them, people saying it's a slow wake zone and boats coming through there. So it was a good process talking through that with some of them. Hit some of the boats with radar while we're on the dock, and you can see the people as they came by thought that they were speeding and they weren't even doing the listed speed limit. So just a visibility piece that we're working through. Doing training right now. Actually, we have 2 officers in Broward County right now with our boat. We're trying to get not everybody, 4 people that we're trying to get trained up that are currently here. Manager has just approved a reserve Marine officer that is a boat captain. So we're trying to incorporate that person into our fleet to do our patrols. Part of our joint trainings with that's Broward, Lighthouse Point, Hillsborough, a good class that's going on right now, 40 hours down there for those officers. You heard National Safe Boating Week. That's going on. That's what we'll be out there working on. Those 650 deaths a year you just heard, we're part of that now. So certainly something that's important to us and something we're going to focus on moving forward. We're in our infancy with this also. So we've got a long way to grow. We're developing this unit. We're 2 months into it, but certainly very, very positive, good effect. We hear anecdotally all those times that the people are telling us out there, we see them slow down, we see what's happening. So that to us is certainly where the rubber hits the road, what we really tell, not what we're telling ourselves, what we're hearing from the different residents. So thank you. Hurricane season, that time of year for us again, June 1st to November 30th. We start to see this. Last year, we saw 2 of the most active hurricane seasons. Predicted 21 hurricanes over the last 2 years that they produced. Forecasters are predicting 19 named storms for this year, tropical storms, 9 will become hurricanes, 4 expected to turn into major hurricanes. So we saw a quiet last couple of years. Those numbers don't really mean anything unless they come right at us and we're affected by us, but certainly the increased numbers means the increased chance that'll happen. Category 2 or higher, we all know we're Barrier Island. It's a mandatory evacuation that's not set by the town of Highland Beach. Don't complain to your town manager. That's set by the state. And that's for your safety. Everything along the Barrier Island you can see. And why is that? Certainly where the potential for a flood, storm surge is the most dangerous thing during a hurricane. We all know that. Dorian was one of the last ones that certainly threatened us, and we were lucky at the size of that storm that came across. Irma, if anybody remembers that, that's the one that we dealt with that's not fun and left a mark on us for a while. Everybody remembers the power outages we went through during Hurricane Irma. Why we tell you to leave the island. Town has a emergency operations component plan. We're certainly all well versed in that. We've done it a few times now. We're prepared to deal with hurricanes, floods, mass casualty, any type of incidents we have. We know that we have a plan. We have the staff. We're prepared to deal with any of those incidents. We'll be doing training actually next week with department heads. With Glenn Joseph, will be in here to work us through some exercise. Certainly, the fire department personnel are well versed on these type of disasters. So good piece to bring into our fold to have with us in this. And Glenn's going to walk us through some exercise and storm type related incidents for all the department heads. And that's who we work with when we go through these type of scenarios. Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management handles everything for the county. And we have relationships with all of these partners and we're working. That's the Emergency Operations Center. Everything comes from the county through them. All our information will be on daily calls as we start to go through this. They'll notify us and almost daily, sometimes more than daily as we progress and storms get closer for us. City of Boca has a space for us if we have to work remotely for any period of time. COVID, what did help us was understand for our personnel how to work from home, how to work remotely, that if anything's good has come out of it. So when we do have to send people home or work from home, we can just about run a town from anybody's residence. But we can go there if we have to for Boca. Code Red, one of our most effective way to communicate with the public before, during, and after a storm. So we'll be pushing again for that for people to sign up. We remind them now. We'll be talking more and more about that. But that really gets to everybody that we expect to leave town, that are out of town, that are up north. That information gets to them. It gets to them immediately. You can set that up for a text, your email, however you want to get that. You lose power, you're still able to keep those kind of updates that we can get to you through Code Red, and that's critical. And we reserve that really for anything serious. We don't inundate you with things that you can learn or should know just by watching the news or understanding what's happening during the event of a storm. That would be for when a storm's ready to hit, evacuations, road closures, curfews, anything pertinent, anything serious. That's how we're going to communicate with you and keep you up to date on what you would need to know. We have that set up for our own employees so we can communicate mass information to them, what's happening in the town, what we're doing, what the plan is for the town as we progress through any type of incidents. We have all the other information we get out, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, we can get it out that way. But Code Red has always been the most effective and reached the most amount of people. Teresa does a good job of getting all that information out for us. Same thing, all the information you get on these websites that you want to learn about a hurricane ad nauseum is out there. So you don't wait for someone to come hold your hand. You can get into our police department and there's a link to hurricane preparedness. We encourage people to do that. We're talking more and more people. We know that there's people now that have moved into our community and across Florida that never lived in Florida before. So we want to be able to interact with those people. Information we'll be getting to the building managers, condos, what they could and should expect if they have to navigate their way through a storm here and what to expect. And when we really tell you what our message is if you can leave, have a plan, leave the island. We know some of you have plans that you go over the bridge. That's the key. Don't feel like you have to leave the state. For our residents here, if you can get off this barrier island, go someplace close enough where you can get home and you have to, or if it's a nothing burger, you come right back, but you don't have to leave the state. The bridges will remain closed in the down position. That's how we get off the island. That's our egress. You don't have to call and ask anybody, will the bridges be up? They don't put the bridges up during a hurricane. We want you to be able to get safely off the island. To get back, you don't need a pass. We've talked about this for the last several years now, but could still get questions from people. We don't have a pass system for the island. If there is type of curfew or any type of, we're letting people back in, we'll be at the bridges, we'll be at both ends of towns with the Delray or Boca. We know our residents, you have your ID. We want you to come back to your home. We want you to make sure things are secure, things are safe. You don't need any type of pass or secret handshake or anything. We're letting you in and gonna bring you right back as soon as we can. So the key is do those things now, have a plan, be prepared. Don't wait till something's coming. Let's move forward with that. I want to talk real quick about A1A. We saw a volume this last season like we really haven't seen before. All of you saw that, experienced that. Our roadways were pretty congested. We spent a lot of time communicating things to the state, talking about that a couple months ago. Mayor, you asked about the bicyclists as you were talking to other people. And we want to make sure that we realize you hear those type of things. We recognize it, we see it, and we certainly are doing things about it. But I wanted to share a little bit about the bicyclists, and they're on A1A. So we know that. A little bit of confusion is what's happened over the recent past last year. You saw some of that law change. Bicyclists, the signs that say may now ride more than 2 abreast. So what changed a little bit in their statute and is throwing everybody into a tizzy is that on the bottom, on the roads that contain a substandard width lane, which is what we have, substandard width means that a bicycle and a vehicle cannot fit safely in that lane. They can't. They may temporarily ride 2 abreast. So assumingly they're supposed to ride single file. So certainly a challenge with a little bit of the language that's been changed, but these signs have been up in our town and all around A1A for who knows how long. Nobody can even remember how long they've been up there for. So they clearly said you can't ride more than 2 abreast, right? So when you see videos like this, no, can you click that video? These bicyclists are not riding more than 2 abreast, but they're not easy to pass, right? And these are the kind of things that people get obsessed about and incensed about, but they're not riding more than 2 abreast. There's nothing that they're doing illegal there. So that's some of our challenge of trying to educate and make people understand that. Okay. And when we do stop ones that are riding in a group that fan out a little too much, there's a video of that. It's a challenge for us on A1A. There's a group of probably 40, 50 bicyclists. We stop traffic in both directions. We've got bicycles in the roadway. We got vehicles trying to get past. This is not a easy, safe environment to do these kind of operations when we do them. Go ahead. Okay. But we do that occasionally. That's what has to happen. So we understand this is what the Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicle puts out. This is from their Department of Highway and Safety Motor Vehicle. Bicycles may use the full lane while traveling substantially below the speed of traffic if the lane is too narrow for both a car and bicycle. So that's from the Highway of Safety Motor Vehicle telling you, you can use the full lane of travel. Cars cannot get around a bicyclist that wants to use the full lane of travel. That's from the FloridaBicycle.org. Use the full lane of travel if it's not wide enough to share. So a lot of bicyclists, we find ride like this, great. It looks great. It is great. They don't have to. We don't have a bike lane. That's a paved shoulder. They're not required to ride in there. A lot of them, why they don't? Because of things like this. These are some of the challenges. We live on A1A all day long. This was a couple of weeks ago. That officer moved that branch out of the roadway on a Saturday at about 150 pounds to try and drag that branch off the road. That's all day, every day. This is our sign down the south end of town. If you've seen it, we're dealing with a bike club that starts out at Boca Raton on weekdays. And we've had some communication with the Boca Raton Bike Club. Been terrific. They appreciate us communicating with them. Really the only ones that have. but we're trying to impact some of that group. This is our sign down there. Do they have to ride single file? We're trying to get them to do that. Is there a hope? I mean, this is the resurfacing project. This is what's on their agenda, how to try and move forward. They talked about having charrettes here with us, trying to get information to the community. If there is bike lanes to be had, this could be something that could alleviate that. That's probably the only thing. But we want you to know that we've been in a lot of communication with FDOT. We put them on notice. These roadways do not handle the volume that comes through here. You have vehicles moving in two different directions, and you have bicycles on both sides of the road moving in two different directions. It's a challenge for them. We haven't had any problems with the big bicycle packs. The accidents happens with the single bicycles that have been where a car turns in front of them. We had 3 of those last year where that happened, and they went all year. So certainly the packs are here. The bicycles are here. The state knows our concern of how tight some of these roadways are here in South Florida. Our pedestrian bicycle safety specialist, who's not from this area now, who know about Highland Beach because of our contact with them and how we've tried to advance some of the efforts of safety here. You saw the news recently, Sunday, 2 people killed on a Rickenbacker bicyclist. It happens, and it can happen anywhere. We don't see those kind of accidents happening here. It doesn't say it can't. So that's our efforts. We've been putting a lot of work into the state about their road that comes through our 3 miles here. And hopefully they're going to pay attention as they start some of the resurfacing project. What we do focus on, we do the crosswalks, all the other things, but our speed. This is the same type of speed limit sign that's out there. People tell us that's great because they realize how fast they were going or slow they were going. So that certainly flashes. We have those in 2 different locations. We move them around the town. We do focus on that. When you're doing the speed limit, you can react to bicyclists, pedestrians, cars stopping at the crosswalks you didn't expect to stop, those type of things. That's what keeps that environment safe. This is one of the things we focus on, that we acquired through a matching grant through our insurance, the town insurance that we were able to apply for. I'll finish up with this. You saw some of these things that again ranked some of the safest. This is not new for us, but this does create a lot of buzz for people that live here, that want to move here. The real estate agents love it. I can tell you they want to talk to us about all these things. It's not the first time. We've had these over a couple of years where we stay in those top environments of being safe. And we recognize the importance of that, the significance of that. And we do a lot to make sure that we're creating that environment and maintaining that environment. And that's our prevention efforts. Great, we can solve crime. How do we keep that crime from being the statistics here in this town? And some of our outreach, our efforts with the community, information that we're constantly sharing with them. We do our security watches overnight, weekends, vehicles. We're interacting with the people. More than a year ago, we saw these trends. We were talking to people. They didn't even get it until we had to put the flyer together to put pictures out to show your mirrors how to be locked and help prevent some of the crimes that are happening where they're getting to some of the unlocked vehicle. So certainly everything we do evolve around our mission statement and focusing on the safety and security of this town. And that's really it. Just wanted to update you on some of those initiatives. If you have any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
One.
Go back to the beginning and you had mentioned, I noticed one citation on the intercoastal.
Correct. So what we found is when we're out there, the boats they don't speed when they see us. So that's a challenge of getting a speeding boat. You saw the story Rich Pollock did. He rode that the day for a couple hours. He said, I couldn't believe we didn't have one speeding boat. So that's the challenge of being out there. It's slowing them down because they know we're there, but it's a little difficult. And what we're finding is too, they pass us and they realize I'm 3 miles. I'm not going to see it in the police boat again. So we've already had some conversations with Delray as they come on board with their boat. They're in this training with us now also. So they have 2 smaller boats that they're starting to deploy. So we're looking to see how we can kind of cover 3 miles of intercoastal after they've already passed us at one point and know that it's unclear, but yeah, so that'll evolve. We've had a limited time on the water, with 2 months. Our officer had to get through a field training program during that time that we're here. Some of the other training that has been going on, so we haven't had extended periods of time on the water. As we train these people up, hire people, those hours and times will continue.
So another question is, are you saying, even though you said in the south end, it's no bicycle lane? Can we say that all of Highland Beach has no bicycle?
Oh, of course, there's no bicycle lanes.
They understand that.
Correct. It's a paved shoulder that the town has. Bicycles are not required to be on the paved shoulder, and it says that right in the statute.
In which case, then they would ride in the lane.
They could. Most bicyclists prefer to ride as far away from traffic as possible. There's very few that we see that come over that where they race and they move into a pack. But as those bicyclists, what you saw, were not technically violating any law, because the law says not more than 2 abreast. They were riding 2 abreast, and it's still tough to get. So bicyclists stay single file through your town and they're in your lane of travel. Those 40, 50 bicycles could extend a couple of 100 yards. Try getting around them then.
Well, so then that begs the point about when people see a bicyclist, they're all saying, move over, get in your lane. You know, they're thinking that they're infringing on the car rather than, you know, the other way around. And in fact, the bicyclist could be literally in the lane, and you're just going to have to go as slow as that bicyclist the whole way.
Correct. If you have a bicycle lane, that's the only thing that changes. They're required to ride in the bicycle lane if you have a bicycle.
But we don't have any bicycle lanes in Highland Beach.
Correct.
And I don't think people understand that.
That's why I shared this with you after our conversation that you had with people about that. You know, we want people to understand that there's a acceptance of bicycles by the state. They want to encourage that the bicycles are out there, and we get that. These are difficult environments. It's a great place. Everybody wants to ride A1A. What saves us is our visibility, our speeds are low, and time for people to react. So, but the R project, this could be something moving forward where there could be some relief as bike lanes are developed and whatever they're going to do.
I'm good.
Ev?
Yeah, I have, you said that most boats on the water, in fact, are going either the speed limit or under the speed limit. And I don't think people understand that 25 or 30 miles an hour for a boat is really fast. And you think they're speeding, but they're really not. But can we start collecting data to see how the wakes are affecting, even if they're going what the speed limit is? Are they creating a wake that creates an unsafe condition? So maybe if over time we collect enough data, we can go to the state and say, look, we know that this is what you have as a speed limit, but this is creating unsafe environments.
Exactly. And we talked about this with the FWC when multiple boats are even going the speed limit, 25 or 30 miles an hour legally, as they're passing each other. Anybody that's been in the coastal, we've been in there to see what it's like as wakes are hitting you and moving around back and forth. It's like a dishwasher out there in some of those more narrower points of the intercoastal. And some of that with that stealth stat, we're trying to capture that. Not only are anecdotal in what we see, but what are the speeds that are coming through different hours of the day, different points of our intercoastal waterway? Where do we need to focus on? What FWC is looking at with the state on reducing speed limits there. And we're going to work to support that, work with them, whatever information we can gather. Sure.
I mean, among other things, you don't always just have one boat in each direction. You can have multiple boats trying to pass each other. And if you get a small center console boat out there and they hit a big wake, that's when you run into real trouble.
We've been out there, I felt like
Because-
you're on the ocean a couple different times that I've been out there with them. So
Well, it gets much more dramatic because of the seawall.
yeah,
Right,
exactly.
They
It
can't run
bounces.
out.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And then it bounces, it reverberates back.
Like a dishwasher.
Okay, Peggy, you had?
Yes, sir, thanks. Regarding boating, on the bottom part of the speed limit sign, there in fine print, it states no wake on the 50 feet outward of each side of the seawall. And I find that's very rarely followed. I wondered if our marine unit is like pursuing that as well. We have had 2 docks hit in the last few years by passing boats.
Sure. And that's something we're looking at, something we talked to FWC about, whether it's not just speeding, but that boat operation that can create an unsafe environment, even if it's not just a higher speed, but depending on what else is operating in the coastal at the time, wakeboards and jet skis and paddle boards, those type of things, bigger boats, faster boats. So sure.
But you'll see large, deep drafting boats come within 20 feet, 10 feet of these seawalls, and that's very dangerous. And as you said, kayakers and boarders are out there. And secondly, I wondered if the marine unit patrols the lakes and the canals as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's actually where we have a lot of interaction with our community people so many people are out back on their docks, on their boats, on their backyards. We've talked to the majority of people that are along the intercoastals in the canals. Yeah.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
that's part of the routine patrols.
Got it. Thanks, Chief. Thanks for your good work.
Natasha?
Yeah, I've seen Officer Lai in my little stretch of canal, so several times. It must be part of her regular patrol. I guess one concern, and I don't know if it's any more or less than we typically have, but a lot of cars pass other cars on A1A, and it just seems so incredibly dangerous. From your perspective, is it more or less prevalent of an issue?
Sure. One of the other things that we're dealing with other than speed, aggressive driving, those are things we run into. We'll get vehicles that don't even do the speed limit. People think it's 30 miles an hour and they're coming through here 27. And people are impatient and they want to at least be able to do the speed limit. And we'll find them passing those type of vehicles and we'll pull them over every chance we get. That's our focus, is how do we keep A1A slow and safe? It allows a reaction time for everything else and bad things from happening. If you're just trying to get up to speed limit to pass somebody doing 26 miles an hour, it's not as bad as somebody trying to go around you at 50 miles an hour to get by you. But yeah,
So do you see,
It's
do
easy
you
to
think
stop
it's
them.
more or less of passing of an issue?
I just think the volume that we've seen,
Okay,
the
yeah,
of
that's
the
true.
frustration
There's more
people,
people.
yeah, we've
Right.
talked about this, so you couldn't get out of town. It
Right.
took you 25 minutes to get to Linton Boulevard. The volume, people just don't want to have to go any slower than they normally do. Anything that slows that down has become a challenge, so.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Timing was perfect. Come on up, John. Okay, we're going to reopen the discussion on page 86, which is the discussion of the financing options that we have for the $5 million.
So I requested contact PNC Bank, Sonoma Bank.
Hold on a minute, got to turn you on.
That's right. At your request, contacted PNC Bank, Synovus Bank, and Webster Bank, asked them all for their best and final offers as it pertains to prepayment provisions, pricing, and a drawdown period on the loan. The following results: PNC's loan was already priced very close to its cost of funding. They cannot make any concessions in that category, nor can they offer a drawdown structure. He also does not believe that they'll be able to get away from a make-whole call. So that proposal is as it stands. Synovus Bank has offered to cut their interest rate from a 3.28 to a 3.26. And they have offered to close 30 days from today, which would take us into later June. So your 18-month period would not begin for a little bit longer. That may be of some additional benefit. Webster Bank cannot offer a drawdown structure. They cannot move on their pricing, but they are willing to make a couple of concessions with regard to prepayment. In the event that the town did not choose to move forward with the fire station financing at all, and there's a 3-month window on this, they would allow for a full prepayment of the loan with a $15,000 penalty that would cover their legal expenses associated with originating the loan. You'll recall they proposed no closing costs at all. So this would reimbursement them for the closing costs that they're eating in the course of originating this.
Let me go back, make sure I get that. Close on the loan, you get 3 months to pay it all back with no prepay.
If you decide not to do the project for whatever reason, you could prepay the loan in full for a $15,000
Gotcha.
penalty,
Okay,
which is much less than even 1%. So
right.
it's pretty good. They would also allow a one-time extraordinary prepayment of unused project funds up to $1.5 million for the first 18 months with no penalty at all. So if you get 18 months in, you still say, hey, we got $1.2 million left in the bank. We don't need it. We've completed the project anyway. You can prepay that portion of the loan with no penalty. That's nice. And their no penalty optional prepay beyond that has been moved from year 5 to year 4. So they essentially moved on the prepayment provisions. Those are the moves that the 3 banks offered.
Would you go through that once more, please?
Sure. The Webster Bank proposal contained an option for prepayment. They instituted a 1% penalty after year 3 and no penalty after year 5. That has been adjusted. It's now 1% after year 3 and no penalty after year 4. In addition, unspent project funds of up to $1.5 million could be prepaid for 18 months without penalty. Or in the event of project cancellation within the first 3 months,
That's not gonna happen.
they could prepay it for $15,000.
But
What
we
was the
still have
interest
to
rate
take
on
all the money.
Synovus that you said that they would?
They
do?
went from a 328 to a 326
Ah.
and extended the closing for 30 days.
I don't think it changes anything, does it?
I mean, it's the interest
I got to run
expense
some
is-
numbers. Give me a second.
the interest expense is still too much on taking the 5 million on May 24th. We still have 250,000 in interest expense
Yeah.
on the Webster Bank. And that just makes it
Still doesn't work.
absolutely, yeah.
Webster Bank added flexibility. PNC wasn't able to make any changes, and Synovus lowered the cost a little bit. It's not a ton.
Yeah. So now I'm still ahead.
Yeah.
You agree?
I
Yep.
do.
Yep. Worth a try, worth the phone calls. I appreciate that.
You saved yourself 2 basis points. My guess is,
Absolutely. We got something.
my guess is that's worth about 10 grand at today's dollars. So
Yeah, we can all go to get some coffee.
it's a nice coffee.
No, definitely worth the calls. Okay.
I have a suggestion. Does David have are we missing anything, David? I mean, no?
No, I've had the pleasure of working with Ford and Associates, and for many years in my previous role as a chief financial officer for the Florida Governmental Utility Authority. And these were much bigger deals. And no, he's anytime I've ever seen him, he's always worked in the best interest of his client. And that's always been nice and refreshing. So, and he's in this arena. It's sometimes it gets crazy complicated where they shift a lot of money and interest and prepayments and whatnot. So I think I think the clear winner as well is Synovus, but
Yeah, I haven't agonized over a deal like this before. It's not a huge deal, but you're in agreement. I think we're in agreement. You're in agreement. Marshall, you want to add anything before a motion is made?
I'm in agreement.
Okay, then that's all we have to say about it. We're open for a motion.
I move we accept the loan deal from Synovus Bank.
Second,
I think we need a roll call for this.
Call.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett Sideman,
Yes.
and Mayor Hillman.
I do have one more. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Before we venture off, how long did they extend close? Skip, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
What was the extension on the close? We
30
may not
days.
need a meeting next week is what I'm getting to.
30 days from today. Skip, Synovus will close in 30 days. So it gives a little breathing
It
room.
doesn't change any numbers.
So basically, we can have instead of having a special meeting next week, we could wait to our June 7th meeting to do that. So you don't have to have a special meeting.
Not unless
I like that.
anybody sees any reason.
I like.
Rates aren't going to get better.
Well, we got 30 days, so we're not like crammed into that. We got to do it by next Tuesday. It gives us a little bit more room
Yeah,
to.
that's not a problem for us.
Okay, so then we'll do it on June 7th. So that give us some time to put the closing documents, give the attorneys a little bit more time to work through with Synovus and John to get those final things together. And the resolution to,
And you're sure that this won't affect the deal, the numbers or anything?
No, it's locked for 30 days.
We are
Yeah.
locked.
I'm just asking, to make sure.
yep. So we're good. So we can do it on June 7th.
So we
Next week,
cancel
we're canceling.
next week's meeting.
next
so
week's meeting.
we
Yeah,
adjust
okay.
the,
Officially canceled.
Yep. So that way
Okay.
we'll come back on the 7th. We'll have all of the 3 instruments that we need to get approved.
Okay.
Or 3
John,
documents.
thank you for the fine work. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I will not be able to be here on the 7th. This may be the last time I see you for quite a while. Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity.
thank you for all your help.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
great outcome.
Sure.
I'm deleting the 24th.
Yep.
Yeah, delete the 24th. And do we need to amend this document? Because we had read earlier that we had a meeting the 24th. Is it enough for us to say in our announcements? Do we have to do anything official?
No, you
No.
just, you put it on the record.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're on the record that we
Okay.
canceled.
Good.
But you can come if you like.
I will not be here.
Okay, the next is the resolution for the town commission for the schedule of fees for the fire rescue department. That's on page 81. We've reviewed this already. So this is the second review on it. John, do you have any comments?
My only question is, we are still saying that we're not charging for fire inspections in our buildings.
That is correct.
Because it's not noted here, so people would have to
It's
see
because it's no
it's
fee.
implied. All right, but it's a different
Okay,
from
well,
ever. I mean,
okay,
with all-
no, seriously, would you want it noted as
As a
zero?
no charge, as,
Okay,
absolutely.
do you have a problem, Marshall, if we add it and then put no charge in?
No, I mean, if you're, you could approve it as amended and we will adjust it that annual inspections will be 0.
Okay,
And you know why? Some people I've told this to, jumping to conclusions a bit, they just thought, wow, that's a big change,
yeah,
because it's also a
Well-
big headache.
it's our department now.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I think it's important to add it in.
Yep. Just to update you, Peggy, John had noted that the inspections of the buildings are not listed here. So they're not listed because there's no charge.
Okay.
But we thought better of it. We're going to list it as no charge. Okay,
Great idea, to be clear. Thank you.
okay. Anything else, John?
I'm good.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, as I understand it, though, we can in fact change this.
Of course,
This
down
is
the
what's
road.
going into play now, but we're not really charging anything now because we're not up and operational.
Well, yeah, it's not set in granite forever.
Right.
Could
So
always be
it's
adjusted.
reviewable.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So therefore, I'm fine.
Okay, Peg, any changes, any adjustments?
I did not see any changes. I
Okay.
think it's a great piece. Thank you.
Natasha, you
Looks
good?
good. No
Okay.
changes.
I'm good also. Marshall, do we need a motion for the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay, somebody make it.
I move that we accept resolution number 2022-011.
Got a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, This moves us to a discussion about what's happening with Palmetto Road in Boca. Now, before we get into it, I just want to mention Peggy. This is potentially a political issue as well for you in your running to represent the district. I guess it's 91. So it's up to you whether you want to recuse yourself or be part of it. Whatever you decide, fine with me and I guess the commission. So do as you will. Okay.
Oh, certainly. I checked with my advisors, and when running for office, you have two official roles in government. You have the role concurrently as commissioner and the role as candidate. And therefore, I will speak today as commissioner. And I will
Excellent.
speak on my experience with this, which emanated from phone calls of my friends in Boca. So I will speak as a commissioner.
Great.
Thank you.
We'd love to have your background and knowledge on this one.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
Okay, my knowledge or limited knowledge on it from calls and things that I've seen and heard is there was a movement on this by a group a couple of years ago, and it was put to bed meaning stopped. Come up again to the Boca Commission, and the commission decided on their vote to do a study on it. And basically what it is changing the roadway from 2 lanes going east and 2 lanes going west down to 1 lane each way. That would then provide for larger sidewalks, et cetera. Not a whole lot different than Atlantic Avenue is in Delray. The reason I bring it to the commission, just for information and a very, very brief discussion, because no decision is made, it's being looked into with a traffic study, is because if in fact it ended up going through, I believe we would have a significant increase in traffic on Spanish River.
Absolutely.
Because people would avoid going to Palmetto because the traffic would be significantly increased. They'd come north and use Spanish River to cross over the bridge. We all know what's going on with the traffic on Spanish River right now, okay? 2 things. One, just coming north on A1A to take the Spanish River Bridge now, you can wait easily 10 minutes to get through the light and taking a left to go over the bridge on a busy afternoon now. When I say now, during season. I, for one, have been caught all the way back onto Federal Highway coming east to get over our bridge, and you can wait for 3-4 traffic lights during the height of the season. I don't know what it would be like if the traffic was significantly increased because people not wanting to get bogged down on 1 lane going west on Palmetto. So I think it would behoove us to spend some time watching this thing, getting a better handle on it. And if we believe that we would get an increase in our traffic, I think we might want to contact the powers to be there and have some discussions with Scott Singer, their mayor, and see what's going on. So that's my head on it, and I open it up to discussion. So, John.
The status right now is that they have commissioned a study.
No, they haven't commissioned it yet. They have approved the funds to commission it.
The point
And
is
I don't know the details of that study, but if you want me to, I'll find out.
Well, the need is for us to know what that study concludes. You know, what's the information, the data, and how are they getting the data on the traffic? Do they have counters on the road and all that sort of thing?
Well, I don't know if if the commission wants me to, I'll get the details, find out when would the study be done, how will it be done, what are the details behind it?
That would help us justify whether we're in severe opposition or if we just stay away from it.
Yep.
If you'd like, Mayor, I could provide the facts.
Sure,
before,
please, some background on it. Go
Everyone
right ahead.
weighs in. I got involved because this subject came up about 8 years ago, I believe, and colleagues and friends of mine who were active in their HOAs in Boca Raton, and I were talking, and I was familiar with the project at that time, which was became a moot issue and was just discarded. It was recently brought up by a councilwoman in Boca who lives near downtown and her colleagues, and they called a meeting in March. And so I attended that meeting, and they provided at the time these beautiful illustrations and renderings of what the narrowed road would look like and throughout the room. And then people were given dots for red or green if they liked or disliked any of the renderings. And so it was a very comprehensive, long meeting. It was very highly attended by condominium beach people in Boca Raton and some in Highland Beach. And so at the end of the meeting, I raised my hand and I asked what their evacuation route plan would be. And in event of hurricanes or any other disasters, and there hadn't really been one provided. And so I came into the meeting with statistics. So I will give you those statistics. These are sourced from FDOT, the Army Corps, and the Sun Sentinel. There are counters on every bridge in the state. And the Palmetto Park Bridge sees 11,000 cars per day. These are averages per year. The Spanish River Bridge is 15,800. Linton is 13,500. And it is the only bridge with 6 lanes total in this area. Palmetto Park Road in A1A sees 18,000 cars a day, which means 7,000 of them either go north or south. My guess is most of them go north to Spanish River. If the Palmetto Park Bridge is narrowed, that is the #1 main route for Centro Boca. The bridge south of Palmetto, as you know, is the Camino Real, very small, historical, very low bridge. You can't even get under it unless you have basically a rowboat. Most boats have to stop. The barrier island is a mile square, basically, in Boca and as well as Highland Beach. The study was commissioned by and funded by Mayor Weinroth with $50,000 of county funds, taxpayer funds, and by the TPA requested by Councilman Andy Thompson with another $50,000. So those are taxpayer funds studying it. The study did not include pedestrian or bike traffic. The way I see this is the barrier islands were like a ship. We've all been on cruises probably. It's like a ship where it's tethered to the dock. And then if you take away our bridges, we're cut loose. And so that is my concern. I have personally evacuated 23 times in 31 years in the storms that we've had. And the reason I kept count is it was my kid's project for school. That's why I know. I will point out, Commissioner in Delray noted that when the George Bush Bridge was out of service, there was a full weekend with the parade downtown where the Atlantic Bridge also was out of service for the day, and that put everyone down to Linton. So you have 2 bridges out. It just accumulates way more traffic. As the chief said, we have mandatory evacuation. I think when we have a warning, right? Not when when we're under full hurricane warning, not watch.
Category 2.
2 and above. Thank you. That I did not remember. Okay. And I did check the stats for Florida. We've gained 250,000 new residents, full-time residents. There's not really a number on visitors since COVID, but it's estimated to be very high. Boca Raton gained a population increase of 18%. It's now populated at 101,167. I don't know the visitor numbers here. And then we have the boat traffic underneath the bridge, which also has increased. There are about 10 boats currently anchored and moored with people living on them full-time in Lake Boca, which I saw. The Palmetto Park Bridge, all the bridges are rated online if you ever want to look them up. And this one boater noted in the comments, very interesting. The opening under the bridge is extremely narrow, so expect strong currents. If your vessel is lightly powered when running with the current, be sure to avoid being carried into the bridge or into the concrete walls. and docks. During weekends and particularly in season, many small boats mill around the boat ramp, which is next to the bridge on the south side. Adding to the confusion, this is usually a very busy area and extra caution should be taken. This is an online site advising boaters of the bridges and the currents. And so you have car traffic ahead, boat traffic underneath. And I personally feel as a safety and security measure that it's a problem. And so that's why I attended, and I'm working with a friend of mine in Boca who lives on the coastal side, and just to see what we can do.
If you would share the early statistics on the bridge itself, the amount of bridge traffic that you were, if
Yes,
you would
sir.
share that with Marshall, he can send that out to all of us.
I'll type it
That
up
would be very
properly.
helpful.
And I've
Thank
got
you.
some attachments also that I
Okay.
already,
Great.
and so you all can have that.
Thanks, Peggy.
I mean,
Thank
you
you
may
very
also
much.
want to get information on the Hillsborough Bridge, because that also is extremely congested trying to, if you're heading south, and let's
Oh,
say you
you're
don't want to go
right.
Camino and you want to go south to Hillsborough,
Yeah.
that's extremely congested going,
Oh,
you
you're
know,
right.
down there and
Yeah, it is.
across. It
Yeah,
is.
that's true.
Yep.
Takes forever.
Anything you want to add to this?
That's it.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, thank you
So,
all.
I see you reaching. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Among other things, you have to take into account that it's going to take them a while to do all this construction, should they decide to do it, which means that never mind one lane in each direction, it's going to be down to no lanes for a period of time. Yeah, you do
That's
have-
not, that won't be very helpful either, will it?
No, well, that's a point against it, to be honest.
yeah.
Also, what they're talking about doing is similar to what the sidewalk scape was proposed for this town, which went over about like a lead balloon.
It has a similar smell, doesn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
absolutely does. As far as boats and having problems getting under bridges, we had that problem in Point Pleasant, and the only way they were able to fix the problem, when you had to aim for a piling so that you knew it was going to take you into the middle of the channel, was that they had to put up a fixed bridge that was high enough that all the boats could get out underneath it, which I don't think is really appropriate here. And Camino Real is a horrible road to go across. You've got two bridges at that point that you have to maneuver around in this little narrow, twisty, turny place. I don't know whose bright idea this was, but
Well, I believe it's
It's-
part of a very long-term plan to make Meisner Park and the Royal Palm, combine it all to a walking downtown, if you will. Because there's a park there also, as we all know, right off of
Right.
Federal Highway, and to make it much of an urban center. One can
Well-
say they like the idea, believe in it, don't believe it, but that's part of some people's long-term master plan.
well, all they have to do is look at Atlantic in Del Rey and recognize that it's a disaster.
Well, some people think it's a
people love it.
disaster. Some people think it's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. The new South Beach.
So,
But I wouldn't imagine people who live on A1A are going to think it's so great. It would be people who live on Meisner.
Mayor,
Well,
to be clear,
look
the
at the-
narrowing would occur in a quarter mile west of the bridge. And the concern is, once you take away those two lanes, hurricane or not, you have to channel those two extra lanes of traffic somewhere. South is the club, so you can't go to the Boca Hotel and Club, or the Boca Raton now. North, it would take it through a residential neighborhood, which is Fifth Avenue. And when I looked up FDOT closures, Fifth Avenue at that location is slated to be a full all-lane road closure in the
Okay.
near future for construction.
I'm not selling it, okay?
No, I'm just telling you, I've been
Yeah,
passing this out
I know
also.
these are all obstacles.
Yes.
But if one is taking the high road on it and looking at making change and looking at making it an urban center, those are things that need to be dealt with. There are many, many people that think what was done in Del Rey with Atlantic Avenue is the second coming. You know, there are, you take a look at the Pineapple Road, Pineapple Square. I mean, that's super, super hot now. Took a long time for that to come into its own, but now it's the place to be. Now, if you ask somebody 5 years ago about it, it's nothing. So one can say that, you know, if you look at it as an urban center, look at it 10, 15 years down the road, maybe this is a great idea. Ask somebody else to tell you all the problems with it. I'm not taking a position on that for Boca. I'm taking a position on it for Highland Beach. For Highland Beach, bad idea. Okay.
All right.
Okay, are we done with that? Okay, let's move on. Approval of minutes from March 15th and April 5th. Does anybody have any comments on March 15th?
No.
Nope.
I believe I just have a small question on one, if I could pull it up.
Okay,
Second, thank you. What date did you, yes, on page 165, public comments number 8, we just are missing the word talked about the past referendum in the first line under public comments number 8.
Linelda, you find it?
Yes.
And then a question on number 4, backing up one page to 164. I see the motion passed 4-0. Is that a typo or did someone abstain from voting?
No, Commissioner David just arrived a few minutes. You all have made the motion
Oh,
prior to
okay.
her coming up on the dais.
No worries. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, April 5th, anything? Once, twice?
Hang on. Sorry. One second, Mayor. Just intercoastal waterway, top of page 175. When it's referenced, it's just singular waterway. It's just no S on it. Just a
Good
minor
find.
issue.
Wow, that's a good get.
Yes. And then just as a style point, you might state under middle of the page under Palm Tran provided information. It's just helpful to a reader to have the $ appear before 600 million on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down towards the right. Then you're understanding you're about to read a number. Just a helpful style point. And that's it. Otherwise, terrific job.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion on both of them at the same time.
I move that we accept the minutes from March 15th, 2022 and April 5th, 2022 as corrected.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, move on to commission comments. John?
Okay, I do have a few. FDOT apparently has been having some hearings, conferences with personnel in Delray. And up came the subject of sidewalks on the east side of A1A. And apparently they want to put the sidewalks in areas, obviously not having sidewalks on the east side in front of some of their more expensive homes, mansions, which is creating an uproar. And as a matter of fact, it's a big deal. Apparently FDOT has intentions on putting in these sidewalks without telling the town. And so I'm now suggesting that you need to confirm with FDOT that they don't plan on putting sidewalks on the east side of A1A in Highland Beach, because that's not what's happening in Delray, and they have another reason to have an uproar. Not that they don't already have a half a dozen reasons why they have uproars going on continually and in parallel. So that's one.
Met with them 2 weeks ago. They are not building a sidewalk on the east side of the road.
And you're sure? I mean,
That's what they told me to my
specifically-
face, unless they're lying to me, but
No, I mean, they brought up that point. It's because in the case of Delray, they never mentioned it until somebody challenged it, found something, and then they said, well, yeah, we are.
No, if anything, we discussed, is there ways to increase the paved shoulder width was the only thing that we discussed And that's even challenging to them because they don't want to touch anything on the east side, especially with the 3R project. If it was a total reconstruction, the conversation could occur, but on a 3R, they don't have the money and they're struggling to find the 5-foot like mark shoulder, paved shoulder concept. They're struggling that here now. So there's no sidewalks coming on.
If I could jump in on the meeting last September, which I attended with our elected officials, they stated it would be very difficult to infuse any sidewalks anywhere because of the elevation of the land here, being where high land beach. And so that's why they were initially put on the west side back when, 30 years ago.
And in the
40.
case of the initial arguments that have come up in Delray, it's not only you have to cut into all that land, you can cut into all the landscaping, all the trees, and go right up in the cases to the walls. It's a mess. For Chief Hartman, 2 points. And I think I put this in writing. I know there was some concern, given all of the feedback and activity he's had with everything on the intercoastal and on A1A. And then we have beachside with dogs. And I did put in writing, and I stand by it, that even though there's so much going on right now, I don't think that we need to have the chief invest more resources in patrolling the beach to ensure that dogs are on leashes and are well managed. So I just want you to know, Chief, I completely support your current level of activity and what you're trying to do. I know that some residents might have a problem, that they want more presence on the beach. And that to me is inappropriate at this time. Next thing about hurricanes, Chief, since I'm also thinking that there's a lot of people watching this, during a Category 2 or above alert, where do people go? I mean, sure, they get off the island, but then where do they go? And typically there are shelters. And is there anything that Highland Beach has typically used in the past?
So shelter should be these public shelters should be your last resort as an option. That's the point of our communication to people early. Have a plan. Everybody has friends that live somewhere outside of Highland Beach. Have some designated plans ahead of time to talk to people, someplace to go, someplace they can come to your place while you're out of town, maybe to stay at the ocean once in a while. But everybody has friends, country clubs, all these things that go on over there. Just make those calls, those phone calls. Now we find those people that have those things in place are able to go, have someplace, peace of mind, and they can get back here. If something does happen or doesn't happen, they can get back. But the point is to make those plans, those pre-plans now, and have those kind of things, because you can't. We learned that during, was it Irma? Everybody tried to get on the interstate. We had people very upset. It's not the town's responsibility to find you someplace to go or have someplace to go. Don't get on the interstate and try to go north when everybody else in the state's doing the same thing. You're going to be in a more dangerous place than if you stayed here.
And so when we've had these alerts, what's been the typical duration? I know it varies by the strength of the storms and all that, but typically in the past, given we've had over the years so many situations, 24 or so, what's the average time? Is it 1 or 2 days?
Sure, it just depends. Every single storm is dynamic, the way they spin up, how fast, how they move. So you can leave at any time. People call us and say, is it too late to leave? It's not too late to leave. You can get safely in a vehicle and get over to wherever you're going. So we encourage people, have those plans, have some place to go, talk to people, get off the island. That's the only way we know people that have hotels, pre-reservations. They do these things now. So when they do come up, they're able to have some place safe to go and evacuate, avoid a storm surge, avoid anything to be trapped on the barrier island.
Thank you.
John, I can answer that a little bit. You don't know 2 or 3 days in advance. It's hours, not days.
It's hours. All right. I also attended a webinar for a couple hours on EVs, electric vehicles, from some suppliers of the equipment for charging. And so, oh my goodness, that really gets complicated. And to go forward with the notion of, oh yeah, we can install a few charging stations. That is not a simpleton's approach. It is much more detailed, especially now in the world of several levels of AC versus DC charges and how much time it takes on both of the 4 options that were discussed. I mean, it gets complicated. I just thought I'd share with you that I can send you a site where it's been recorded and you can spend the time to learn.
If I may, Ron Riami, who we all know serves on the boards and whatnot, he's been the point person in our development. So if you want any information, talk to Ron. He's very, very current on it.
Very good. So our veterans, as you all know, still a lot of members of the town don't know that we have another new tab to our website, the town's website, highlandbeach.us. And we have this town tab for the veterans. And there's a lot more than just stories. There's links to all kinds of resources that's available for veterans. As an update to all of that, I just completed and I passed on to Teresa is that I just did an interview and wrote up the story for Rick Greenwald, who has an unbelievable story that I think you'll all be fascinated by. So that's in the works, or as I say, in the tank. One other thing. So, Marshall, if you could consider, people have been asking me about, with all this noise about fire and EMS, what's going on? What's the schedule? When are you going to actually start ripping up the front? I mean, things like that. So I'm wondering in your manager's minutes that you maybe have a separate box that kind of gives, progress today, what's happening so that people know what's going on. Just a short, sweet, but, a way to let them know that it's a major deal. It's going forward. It's not like we're still thinking about it, or in this case, we might change our minds or something like that. Okay, that it's happening and here's the progress, just as a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
And I'm done.
Nothing, thank you.
Peggy?
No more for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Natasha?
Yeah, so at the last financial advisory board meeting, the Q1 financial reports were presented to the financial advisory board. And I was trying to, I was trying to dig through previous meetings and trying to get an understanding of, okay, so they were presented to the financial advisory board. So I guess I'm wondering, why weren't they presented to us today? What is the protocol for presenting quarterly updates to us?
Whatever you would like. If you want those as well, I have not done those since I've been here, but if you would like those, now that we got David on board and he's landed and got his feet under him, he could do monthlies, he could do weeklies. What do you think? Dailies?
Because I feel like, didn't Eric give us an update for the previous quarter? I'm pretty sure he did, because he somehow.
You were at the FAB meeting.
Is
where
that
he
what it was?
It was the FAB meeting.
So it's always been only at the FAB meeting?
We'll give you guys a copy of the report.
I would like monthlies.
And
There it is. I
Yeah.
guess monthly. You want
Yes.
monthly?
Agreed.
yes,
Okay,
and
whatever you guys
you.
want.
and also there's a table called fund balance category.
Yes. Yes.
Can you, and normally what has been included in these quarterly updates is just the current quarter.
Mhm.
Can you also put the previous 2 quarters on there so that we can see how it changes?
Sure. You're only going to see a change in the fund balance probably as we get through the audit. So you're going to, a couple times a year, you'll see a change in there. It's not like a daily change.
No,
On
it
the
would
fund
be,
balance.
it would be,
Well, we could give you the prior years
quarterly.
too. You can see so you can see the fund balance grow. We do that during the summer, during our budget presentations. Like every presentation will have that one slide that shows, here's the previous fund balance, here it is now. But yeah, all this is possible.
I think at least quarterly. And I would definitely want to see whatever you think is reasonable. A few of the prior milestone, whatever, previous quarter, previous year, whatever. And any significant change? I guess.
Excuse me. Why can't you have a monthly report and see what the monthly balances are in the accounts?
So that's exactly where I was going to go. We'll give you a monthly variance report, which we can easily get out of BSNA, and it would trigger, you would see the jump ups on any expenditure or revenue source that's short or over.
No,
So-
and why can't we see the monthly fund balances? You get the report.
Sure.
you're
They
invested.
just don't change that much.
They don't change that much.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Like we're not
matter.
doing journal
So-
entries to the
So-
fund balance on that
Yeah.
regular of a basis.
Yeah, but if the vice mayor asks for it, I'd like to see it as well. I want to see the balance
Sure,
in
we'll
each
give it
fund
to you on a
every month.
monthly basis. I just don't expect a lot of changes
We're
month
not
to month.
expecting
on-
big changes,
Right.
but it's easy enough. You look at it, I'm sure, so. jot
David
down.
would do it. Smile, David, right? Look at him. See, he's all over it. Monthly, bam, that's
Yeah.
done.
So
Done.
you'll have
Done.
some history of the
Yeah.
months.
Yep, we'll do a
Um,
very, it's really easy to do. We'll do it one way by department rather than every single line item. Otherwise you'll have like a
Yeah.
30-page report,
No,
but
no, no.
do a bigger view on a month and it'll be a variance. And then we'll have prior year activities. It's easy to do in BSNA.
Just in totals.
Yeah.
That's all.
Is that good?
And that, yes, and then to be prepared to explain.
Of course,
Any
Sure.
significant. And well,
Absolutely.
yeah, just be prepared to
The first meeting
explain.
of the month or the second meeting of the month? So we just get in a regular habit. What would you?
Whatever's easier for you to accumulate the data.
Second meeting of the month. That way you can get the prior month's data.
That's fine. You tell us what's more convenient for you, but let's just be consistent. That's all.
Right. Typically, right, public companies, right, report quarterly. And here's why, right? It knocks out some of the highs and the lows. In the month of December, you get 80% of your revenue, right, from property taxes.
Of course.
Just as once in a month, right?
Right.
The other stuff just kind of trickles
Dwindles in, yeah.
Right, the rest is up, but 71% of your expenses are payroll and related expenses. So
Mhm.
you're going to see a little bit of overtime and,
It's fine.
and so at the end of the day, and then typically we don't spring into action until we get the bank statements. That way we can reconcile our bank statements, make sure everything has been recorded and closed. And right now, working with staff to make sure, number one, accuracy, and then number two, speed. So, at the end of the day, I work for you. And if that's what you want, then you will have it. We'll probably be a month behind just because, you're going to close June, right? And then, we're going to close May. And I'm going to get the bank statements May 3rd, right? I'm going to look at the variances. I'm going to see when various things have happened. I'm going to make sure there's a payroll accrual, debt service accrual, the
Mhm.
whole 9 yards.
Sure.
And then after I get everything recorded, then I'll look at the variances. Why? And
Understood.
then I got to hunt people down. Why did you have so much overtime? What happened here? What, and figure that out. So,
Right.
but that is the goal, and we'll get it done. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
So we'll get you monthlies and we'll work our way through it and we'll refine it as you see what's
So-
most valuable to you.
Whatever timing is necessary to be accurate
Yes, sir.
is fine. If hypothetically it's going to be 30 days behind,
Mhm.
I just want consistency, then always 30 days behind, not 30 days this time and then 60 days next time.
Absolutely.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it'll evolve as we start to get these.
And I'll add,
Because just as you're responsible to us, we're responsible to the residents.
Sure.
So we need to kind of keep an eye on things.
You got it.
Yeah.
so the other thing that I'm interested in, as usually any commission or board of directors, we don't want any surprises. No surprises. And as soon as you find there is a surprise coming, you got to let us know right away.
Sure. No, I agree. Bad news doesn't get better
Yeah,
with time.
that's fine.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, okay, that's real good.
Yeah. You got it.
Okay, good.
And that's it for me. Yeah, thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Did you have something?
I did have one other request.
Hmm?
I did have one other
Sure.
request to make. I just wondered, as you're compiling some data regarding the traffic study, I wonder if our attorneys might weigh in on the legal ramifications and whatever bearing we would have, since some part of that road is county and some part of city.
No.
Just-
Kidding.
Mayor, he's so funny. Just a point of procedure might be helpful. And we
And
have
so-
full information.
And so what does it does? I mean, I've dealt with the impact of local regulation on either county or state road.
Yes,
It's really going to depend on what it is that the will is of the selected body and what you kind of want to do and whether or not it's within the wheelhouse of your authority. You may or may not know, I was in Miami Beach for quite a bit of time and there was
did see
always
that.
a struggle between what the local governmental officials wanted versus what we were allowed to do by FDOT standards and then also with the county. So with that, I mean, I could certainly work with you in trying to establish something that we can legally do. You've got a police department here, which is a plus compared to some other entities that don't have that. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility in terms of what we can and cannot do and take enforcement action in that regard. So I mean, I have no problem in working with Marshall, maybe getting an idea of what it is that you want to do. I know A1A is a big component for you. I know that I did briefly speak with the chief some time ago. I think it was a couple of meetings ago regarding the bicycles.
yes. Sir.
I've dealt with that in Miami Beach, except that it's a little more volatile down there. You guys are a little bit more kinder, gentler here in Palm Beach County than Miami-Dade. But I've done a lot of quality of life ordinances and the ability to enforce it. So it really will be depending on what you want, and I will let you know whether or not we can legally accomplish that with the limitations that we have as to what's happening up in Tallahassee.
That'll be great. And you're the right man to have up here. Thank you so much.
Yep.
It's my
Thank you,
pleasure.
Mayor.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Yeah, we're a little premature right now. We're still in fact finding, but down the road, it looks as though we're going to have to take some kind of actions. So, okay. Anything else?
I'm
We're
good.
good?
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of comments. One, I guess it's FDOT. There is significant growth that's on FDOT's space. It's almost directly across from the north entrance to our development. It's kind of between the second house on the east side of A1A, the second house that's part of our development. If you're looking at our beach club, the next two houses heading north, that's part of our development. This would then be next to that. It's actually county property. That's part of the Milani Park, but it's right next to the road. So it's FDOT's land, I would guess. Terribly overgrown. Could you contact them about cutting it back? Thank you. One thing for the commission, as we move forward on fire rescue, I think we should be looking at developing a fire department foundation, not terribly dissimilar from what the police department has, but prior to our taking over, prior to the May 24th date, so that possibly this foundation would be working on maybe some contributions that could maybe be things like naming rights for the building, or maybe naming rights for the ambulance or the fire truck, or maybe there's a wall of sponsors, contributors, what have you, as opposed to selling bricks. This might be a little more upscale, might raise more funds. It may be more appropriate for Highland Beach, for our town. So if you're in agreement with that, I'll take the assignment. If you want, I'll work on it. And, I think it's the right thing for us because hell, this is the first time we're ever going to have our own fire department. Okay. And it's something we want it to be a community fire department, like we have a community police department. And I think it might be an opportunity where some people would want to have their names up there as being part of the development of this new fire department. So if we're in agreement, we'll start working on it. I'll work with Marshall on it, bring some ideas back to the commission. Okay.
I think that's great. And if I could add that the best practice that the League of Cities discusses every time is for a community to have its own police and own fire. That is optimal setup. So that would be great for you to do that, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. We'll start working on it and as it starts to develop, bring it all back and get some more input from everybody. Okay. Anything from our esteemed attorney?
The only thing I'm going to report is that I'm not Glenn. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but it's a pleasure being here. I love working with your entire staff. Marshall's been great. I often sing his praises. So just as you know that.
I gotta give him the money.
Well, you're more than welcome, and we're pleased that you're here with us.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. You guys are all wonderful.
You betcha. Well, some of us are. Okay, Marshall, it's all yours.
Not much to report. I'd be excited to have a firefighters ball. I haven't been to one since I moved down here, so we can get one of those going. Those are always great fundraisers.
I think we jumped the ball there. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Marshall.
Yep. No, nothing to add. Just it's all fire. Again, we're getting close to tying down some the last couple touches to staffing and working through some of our HR stuff, getting everything prepped to start onboarding a fire department. So there's a lot of background, nothing really exotic or exciting, but taking us from a small town to a big town when it comes to, we really need to have an HR function and refine and develop that. So we're really working through those details. And hopefully we'll be able to give you some of those updates and some of the programs and things of that nature. And I will give everybody before they leave a little proposed drawing on the EMS graphics, just to kind of, not a lot of detail, but just where your head's at. You like it kind of ish, don't like it, just some general information.
Oh, let me just add one point to it. The truck comes in white.
Yeah.
So any change in it is change we put on it. So when you see like a red ambulance, they paid to make it red. So what we're looking at here is what we want to do. Remember, we all voted for white. Well, we didn't know at the time that's how it came. Okay. So what we're talking about here is now adding some red to it to just kind of beef it up a little bit. So this is just the first.
So wait a
look-see.
minute, are we
That's all.
buying an ice cream truck?
Yeah. Remember the old good humor trucks?
It plays a different tune when you get in it, though.
That's the used deal you were talking about. I see.
So this is just one idea that one of the people on the committee had. That's all it is. Okay.
If I could add that was pointed out to be by our Green Acres friend,
That's where it came. Yep.
It's a
you got it.
safety and effect because white will show up at night. And when he said that, I thought, bingo,
Yeah.
we have a lot of calls
Yep.
at night. That's just brilliant.
Yep. Okay. So
That's it. So thank you.
I've seen it. Okay. It is 4:07 and we shall adjourn. Thank you all.
And thanks, Jack, for attending. Oh, it's nice.
Get back to you about that. No.